Okay, everyone, welcome to today's webinar. And essentially in today's webinar, we're going to go through the post-course requirements for you after you have done your face-to-face workshop, or if you've gotten to the assessment cluster and you are working on this section, okay? So essentially, what you need to do is create assessment tools for Unit 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so as part of the TAE, we have 3 assessment tools that you need to create, and you need to trial those tools as well. And once you've trialed those tools and received feedback, you then need to type them up. Okay, so I'm quickly just going to demonstrate what that would look like for the first unit that we've got here. Now, this unit you've probably also done in class and the trainer has walked you through it, but let's just quickly remind ourselves of what that is and what that looks like. And I will give you an example of what a student has done in terms of post-course and what's required, okay? So the first unit here is work effectively with others, okay? So what I imagine is that in class, you've gone through this and uh, you've filled out the assessment plan, okay, and you've come through and you've done the mapping for the unit, okay, just like how you were going to assess it, and you have created the assessment instructions, okay, and the trainer would have helped you through this, otherwise you would have watched a webinar that would have helped you through this, okay, and you would have created your observation checklist, okay, put in the mapping and create your statements and correlated it back to the mapping, okay. All right, and then you would have come down and you would have made your verbal interview questions, you would have had your mapping and made your question and all of that. Okay, then in class, you probably, coming down, okay, you probably trialed the assessment as well, okay? So you did a mock simulation of having used the observation checklist and you used the verbal interview, you asked a colleague or a co-worker or even a classmate the question and you wrote down what they said and you trialed the assessment, okay? Then you got your trial person to fill out this section for you, ticking yes or no and putting in some comments in this section, okay. All right, so we scroll down there, the designer reflection, you would have reflected back on the assessment and noticed what worked well, what changes you would make, and you made a note of the changes that you would make in this box here, okay. And so then what's the next step? Okay, well, the next step is essentially you are going to, and let me just bring up the next document that we need to look at. Okay, so the next document that we want to look at is the markers guide. Okay, so after class, you would have been sent a link by either your trainer or the enrollment team, and you would have been sent a number of templates. You would have been sent a markers guide for this unit and a student copy for this unit, okay? So what you do after class is you're going to go ahead and type up the marking guide for the unit that you create or the assessments you create. So you're going to effectively copy and paste in or type in what you've got from your book, okay, from the folder. So you put in all this same information, okay, then you're going to come down and the observation checklist, okay, you're going to put in the mapping, you put in the statement, and you're going to create some criteria for the assessor to actually see. Okay, so in this case, we've got when shop becomes busy, candidate offers support to other team members, serving food or making coffee. Okay, and then you would put in some benchmark criteria for the assessor to see. So assessor must see candidate support peers in 2 occasions. Okay, move on to the next one. Put in the statement that you have created as part of the trial, okay? Then you put in some criteria. So assessor must see the candidate, a combination of communication skills with 2 non-English speaking people, okay? This is examples that I've just taken from an actual student that's completed their book, okay? And come down, mapping, blah, all right. okay, and you're simply typing it up into a markers guide, okay. Then you come down, okay, then we're going to create a markers guide for the verbal interview. So notice all the markers guide guidance is in red. So the markers guide answers are in red. Okay, so we've got the mapping, then we've got the markers guide there, and then we've got the question itself. Okay, that's all coming from what you did in class. Okay, and okay, so coming down, okay. Now notice how we've got some items here in green. Now green, as the instructions say, any changes that you make to your assessments, you're going to put in green, okay? Now in total, we like you to have made 3 changes, a minimum of 3 changes, and you need to indicate those by putting in the font in green, okay? So now, if we take a look at the student copy, okay, let's just find that. Okay, now the student copy is going to be different in the sense that, okay, we've got the same information there. Okay, but the student copy is different because we have the statement, but we have no assessor guidance. Okay, so if we come down, we've got the statement, we've got the mapping. Okay. And then we've got the verbal interview, we've got the mapping, we've got the question, but there is no benchmark answer, okay? All right, so now let's come back to our source document, okay? And so we've got the assessment cluster and, okay, so as the instructions say, we want you to create a markers guide and we want you to create a student copy, okay? So to put that into perspective, we got unit 1 and we want you to create a markers guide for the observation checklist and the written test, or sorry, the verbal interview. Then we want you to create a student copy. Okay, what's the difference? The markers guide has benchmark criteria and it has benchmark answers for the assessor. Student copy, it has the just the criteria and then it has just the question. Okay, then you're going to all right, come down and you're going to make the assessments for unit 2, okay? And if you're not sure how to do that, just watch the webinar on how to create the assessments, okay? So coming down, okay, so you're gonna do the mapping, okay? Then you're gonna create your observation checklist for unit 2. So you put in the mapping, make the statement, blah, 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 or as we all know how to do. Okay, then you're going to come down, written assessment, you create the mapping, put in the question, okay, put in all the questions. Okay, and then with the third party, you create your third party, put in the mapping, put in the criteria, okay. Then you're going to trial it and you're going to tick off the observation, mock, simulate that that's actually used, and then the written assessment, you give that to someone and get them to fill out their answers for the written assessment. You mark their answers, okay? Then the third party, you go ahead and mark them off in the third party. Okay, then in the assessment tool instrument analysis form, you get that person to fill out the form for you, ticking yes or no, and putting in some answers to those criteria there. Okay, then what do you, then in the designer reflection, you're going to make a note of what changes you're going to make to the assessment. Okay, then you go to the templates. Okay, you go to the templates. As part of the course, you would have received a markers guide and a student copy. A markers guide and a student copy template. So, excuse me. So what do? You go to the markers guide and you transfer over what you've done in your trial, and you put in the observation checklist item and then the benchmark criteria, and you put in the mapping, of course, and you create that. Then you go to the written test and you put in the question, and then you put in the benchmark answer, okay? And you do that throughout the markers guide. Then the student copy. In the student copy, you put in the criteria, but you leave out the assessor benchmark answer. You go to the written test and you put in the written test question. Then you leave out the benchmark answer, okay? And then you get to the third party, okay? And you put in just the criteria. Okay, and then you head to, okay, coming through, okay, coming through, then you head to the third unit, which is participate in safe work practices, okay, and you create the assessment plan, okay, and then you create the mapping for the third unit, all right, so you go through, create the mapping, okay. If you're not sure how to do any of this stuff, watch the webinar on creating the assessments, okay? So we got the up your workbook, so you're going to create the assessment instructions, okay? You're going to come down, and we got the workplace document checklist, all right? So you're going to create that, and then we got the incompetency questions or interview questions. So you're going to create the mapping, create the question, okay? Mapping, questions, mapping, questions, mapping, questions, all right? You're going to come down and you're going to make the third party report, okay? So you got the statements, okay, and the mapping. Then we've got the instrument analysis form, okay? So you're going to create each of those things and you're going to trial it, okay? So what does trial mean? It means observation checklist, simulate that you've used it, okay? And then the interview itself, make sure that you actually do the interview. So get a friend, family member or colleague, sit them down and ask them the questions, write down what they say, okay? Then with the third party report, just simulate ticking those off. And then get someone to complete the assessment tool instrument analysis form. So they're going to review the assessments that you've created, okay? And they're going to tick yes or no and put in some comments, all right? Okay, they're going to come down, okay? And then we got designer reflection form, so designer reflection. So you're going to, based on that feedback that you get, you're then going to notate any changes that you would make, such as I will rewrite question 3, 9, 6. The criteria on the third party report didn't really make sense. I would change that. Okay, so you're going to have a minimum of 3 in there. Okay, then what do? You go to the templates that we send you for this unit, and you're going to type up a markers guide and a student copy. What's the difference? The markers guide has the benchmark answers in there. So you've got, with the observation, you're going to have the, oh, my bad. With this one, this unit, you've got a document checklist, okay? So document checklist, you don't need any benchmark criteria for. The written assessment, you're going to have the question and benchmark answer, okay? Then you've got the third party report. You've got just the criteria. You don't have any benchmark answers for that, okay? Then you're going to make the student copy, all right? The student copy has the document checklist and then the written interview questions. You have just the question, no answer, okay? Then you've got the third party report, okay? You've got just the criteria, okay? So hopefully that's made sense. Once you have typed up these documents, so you've typed up the markers guide for unit 1, 2, and 3, and then you've typed up a student copy for unit 1, 2, and 3. Once you've typed up these documents, you are then going to use the student copies, okay? So you're going to use those student copies with 5 people, okay? 5 people. So what 5 people means is that we need to have 5 different names, okay? So essentially Unit 1 assessments you're going to use with 2 people. Okay, so you're actually going to sit down with someone and you're going to use the observation checklist, and you're going to use the verbal interview for Unit 1 with 2 people. Okay, then Unit 2, you're going to use that. We have observation, and we've got a written test, and we've got a third party, and you're going to use that with 1 person, all right, a different person. Okay, we need 5 different names. Okay, then we've got Unit 3. You're going to use that with 2 people. Okay, so you're going to sit down with someone else, and you're going to you've got your student copy there. You're going to use that with 2 people, all right, 2 separate people. So you're going to use the observation checklist, tick them off for that, and then the written, I believe it's a verbal interview, so you're going to sit down with them and ask them the questions. And then you have the third party report. You're going to tick them off on that. Okay, so full stop. Let me just recap. Okay, so I'll say it again. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. You have a marker's guide for each of them. Okay, and you have a student copy for each of them. Okay, what's the difference between the marker's guide and the student copy? The marker's guide has the question and the benchmark answer in it. Okay, the student copy just has the question and no benchmark answer. Okay, I will also remind you at this point that the marker's guide, whenever you have benchmark answer, you want to put that in red. Okay, so marker's guide, any benchmark answers are going to be in red. The student copy is going to have just the question and no answer. All right. So when you actually submit your book, you are going to have a master marker's guide for Unit 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to have a master copy for the student. So student master copy. And we recommend that you print those out. Then for the actual assessments themselves, you are going to have proof of having used the assessments with 5 people. Okay, so you can print those out or you can submit them on a USB drive. Okay, so I'm aware that there's many steps to it, and if you follow the process and do it piece by piece, it will make sense. Okay, so Unit 1, you trial it. Okay, the Unit 2, you trial it. Unit 3, you trial it. You type up the marker's guide. You type up the student copy, and then you use those with people, and you have 5 copies with their names on it, and you have essentially a marker's guide, student copy, masters, and then you have 5 used copies with student names on them. Okay, hopefully that's made sense. I know there's a lot to take in. If you have any problems at all, just let us know. More than happy to help you out. You can do Unit 1 and type up marker's guide, student copy, and then Unit 2, type up marker's guide, student copy, Unit 3, type up marker's guide, student copy. Or you can do all 3 trials and then type up all 3 markers guides and student copies. Totally up to you, the order that you want to do it in. Okay, hopefully that's made sense to you. If it hasn't, just send us an email, give us a call, and we're more than happy to help you and walk you through it. Okay, so thank you so much for your time and your attention, and we wish you the very best through the assessment cluster. All right. As I said, this one is best watched in combination with the other webinars that we've got already to help you understand the pieces that come together. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next webinar.